Welcome back from that short break, and I'm not alone on this weekend edition of the show because Kingsley Emmanuel joins me in the studio. Kingsley, good evening and welcome to Sport Extra.
Mike, thank you very much. Nice to be here this evening.
Nice to be here. Before we dive straight to the UEFA Champions League and many more other stories, let's start from the home scene because the National Sport Commission has announced a 21-man local organizing committee for the African School Games slated to hold in Abuja, Nigeria in 2027. Nigeria was unanimously announced as the host of the 2027 edition of the Games during an extraordinary session of the ANOCA Executive Committee held in the sideline. The National Sport Commission has been proactive in putting together a world-class event which prompted its leadership to announce the LOC. According to the Director General of the National Sport Commission, Bukola Olapade, quoting him, he says, "We are glad to host the African School Games. We were in Algeria for the last edition, and our athletes did pretty well with a spectacular podium finish in that very last edition." He further also urged the athletes to prepare their mind and be ready for what is to come. So, Kingsley, another yet opportunity for we to host the rest of Africa, and the National Sport Commission, according to them, they'll be very proactive in trying to organize a top-notch competition right here in the country. Last time we finished, I think, third. Yes, we finished third in the last edition. This time around, for the fact that we are hosting at home, can we surpass our previous achievements?
I think we can, if only the athletes, of course, will live up to expectation. We'll understand that school games has been something, of course, we've been glamoring for down here in Nigeria. Talking about the revival, of school games, we've been talking about it, and good one that the National Sport Commission, of course, they really key in to make sure they revive, school sports down here in Nigeria. So for me, I think looking at what we've been able to do, especially when you take a look at the last National Youth Games, you see that, so many talents, of course, were exported. And I believe with that, we are going to stand in a very good position of putting up another impressive, performance this time around. If we finished third last time, then we should be looking at, coming top, in this particular one. Looking at the fact that we're the hosts, so that home advantage, of course, might be there. The athletes might have that high level of confidence, knowing that they are playing, of course, they're actually competing at home. So for me, I think a lot at stake, for Team Nigeria, a lot of advantage around us. So we'll see if possibly we can surpass, the last record, being set up, last time. And kudos to the National Sport Commission. So far, so good. I think this year we've seen, Nigeria hosting other countries, when it has to do with, sports, down here. I think currently ongoing is the Para Games in Abeokuta, and it is the first time Nigeria is hosting the Para Games, down here, and that for me is actually, of course, a very good one. And this is it again. We're also hosting the school sports, and for me, I think it's a good one. But it's not just about we hosting and hosting and hosting. I think for me, what we should be looking at for is producing talents that can be able to stand the test of time, anywhere they find themselves in any competition, to say, and also making sure that the sporting, the sports structure in Nigeria is in good shape. We shouldn't just be inviting other nations into the country and then we'll prove to them that, okay, we're good, but in the real sense of it, we're nothing to write home about in our assistant. So for me, I think we should try to develop, from the foundation and see how we can have a good structure, when it has to do with sports in the country.
All right, we'll see how this one pans out, but then the major focus is not just hosting the game, but then also to see how we can be able to groom talent right from the grassroots level, talking about the school games, which has been one of the most pathways to unearth new talent. I will hope that this aim of the hosting this very competition will be achieved, because it just goes beyond the border of just hosting and getting glory for hosting the rest of African country, but then to do the needful to ensure that we are able to, you know, bring up talent from the school games activities. All right, let's talk basketball on the show, because Lagos legend owner Manasseh Achi believes their triumph in the 2025 Nigerian Basketball Premier League wasn't because they were underrated by Rivers Hoopers, insisting the former champions were wary of them before the showdown last Sunday. In a dramatic final that ended 74-72 at a basketball stadium in Port Harcourt on Sunday, Lagos legend dethroned the Rivers Hoopers to claim their first ever league title, barely 4 months after they were taken over by Archie, who also runs Mcdown Flyers, a Benue-based sports academy. Having inflicted an 80-79 defeat on the Hoopers during the final 8 last month to end their 3 years unbeaten run, Sunday's win was more decisive, as it earned them the Basketball African League ticket for next year. The result also meant Lagos legends have beaten Rivers Hoopers twice in their 3 last meeting thus far. So Kingsley, the new owner of Lagos legend, Mr. Archie, said that their triumph over over Rivers Hoopers wasn't because of the fact that Rivers Hoopers underrated them. They know their prowess, they know their strength. It was more like, call it a hard work, and not just the fact that they were underrated, because they've come a long way. And I think there seems to be an atom of truth in that, because I will not say that Rivers Hoopers underrated them. You saw how, the first game was more like a keenly contested encounter, 80-79. That is just 1 point different. And their last 3 meetings, Lagos legends have enjoyed 2 victories and lost 1 to Rivers Hooper. So, truly deserving champion of the Nigerian Premier Basketball League.
Very, very deserving. They're worthy champions, all right, for beating the very best twice, all right. So it shows you that, you can't take anything away from their victory. They really deserve, this particular one. So I don't think Rivers Hoopers, like we talked about the other day, I don't think Rivers Hoopers underrated them. If they have even underrated them in the first game, then I think they would have come out maybe in this final of the championship. But Lagos legends still stood their ground and were able, of course, to come out to get the victory against Rivers Hoopers. That's to tell you that they were more intentional, and not that they actually won by luck. They merited the victory. At the end of the day, they played well and they deserve it. As it stands, that should tell you that we have another champion when it has to do with basketball down here in Nigeria. So yes, Rivers Hoopers, they're a very good side. But from what we saw in this particular championship, Lagos legends showed more resilience and tenacity in the competition, and you can't take anything away from their victory. You cannot just attribute it to luck alone. You must, of course, give them that the fact that yes, they worked hard for it, and they merited this particular one. So for me, I think Rivers Hoopers did not underrate them. Hoopers were not up to that heights of defeating them. All right. So for me, I think they really deserve the victory, and I just hope that they continue with this impressive performance. It's good of a thing we're having another champion in the Nigerian Premier Basketball League. This is what, of course, we've been clamoring for, for so many years. Not every year it is Rivers Hoopers, every year Rivers Hoopers. It's good of a thing we're having the competition, where you ask yourself, how long or how far will Lagos legends go? How far will they dominate the Nigerian Basketball League, as it stands? That's another big question, because you know that Rivers Hoopers, after they lost to Lagos legends, they've been talking tough, vying to reclaim back the title and all of that. So I tell you, come next season, the competition will be very, very, tough. And of course, it's going to be a fun-filled one, especially, of course, for the fans who have been looking forward to see basketball being very competitive in the country.
All right, big congratulations once again to Lagos legend, the reigning champion of the Nigerian Basketball League after dethroning Rivers Hoopers, the Kingsmen, to lift their first title in the Nigerian Basketball Premier League. Don't forget our vocal point of discourse on the show this weekend is the UEFA Champions League that went down over the midweek. This is the crux of the main discussion on the show this weekend. But then before we head to the UEFA Champions League and many more, let's tell you that in the African Champions League, Rivers Hoopers fell to the firepower of their opponent, RS Berkane, rather. Yes, at home to, the Moroccan side in their second group stage of the CAF Champions League. And Kingsley, the disturbing aspect of that game was that Rivers United, playing at home, they took the lead in the 37th minute, though an own goal, you will say, but then a goal is a goal. And they held on till 90 plus something minutes. Just at the nick of added time, the away team equalized at 97 minutes, then broke the hearts of Rivers United at the last minute of the game to make it a 2-1. 2 defeats in 2 games. Seated at the bottom of their group right now. Can Rivers United still find their way through?
It's going to be difficult. Talking about finding their way through, I think it will be difficult. I think they have a game against Dynamo, and that one, of course, comes up next year. So it's really going to be difficult for Rivers United. I thought maybe they would have, hold their own and be able to take out 3 points, in that encounter. I tell you, it was a very, very disappointing one. How can you, hold a particular game for 90 minutes, and in the space of 7 minutes, you just allowed, 2 goals. You just conceded, 2 goals. It's very, very disturbing. And you ask yourself, where is the defense that Philip the Judge has been talking about all this while? We have a good defense. Everything you just have to do is defense, 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 defense. Where is it? I think that is even where you need to even pack everybody down to your, to the box to save the 3 points. Well, at the end of the day, in the space of 7 minutes, you conceded 2 goals. It's very, very unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate. RS Berkane, of course, they knew what they wanted. They kept on pressing and pressing and pressing and pressing and pressing. At the end of the day, of course, Rivers United considered those goals. And no thanks to the goalkeeper as well. I think his performance was very awful, of course, in the day. No thanks, of course, to the goalkeeper. But it is what it is, Mike. You take a look at it, at least even in the space of that 90 minutes, Rivers United, they were playing at home. At least they should have maybe looked for a way to score at least 2 or 3 goals to keep themselves on the safer side. But they scored 1 and maybe followed the philosophy of the coach and kept on defending against RS Berkane's side. They are very, very determined. A Moroccan side that is very good. Don't forget how football has been, of course, in Morocco. So it is difficult for you to hold these people down. It's difficult for you to bring them down. So for me, I think that tactics yesterday was not a good one. And Mike, no thanks to the nature of football here in the Nigerian Premier Football League. We've not grown up to that standard of challenging some of this North African side. It's been difficult. Take a look at what Pyramid did to Rivers United. Yes. Now another North African side, Morocco as well, also dealing with them or dealt with them. In the space of 7 minutes, scoring 2 goals. All right. So for me, it's very, very disappointing. It means there's a whole lot that we need to do in terms of the level of football we play down here in the Nigerian Premier Football League, and how about how the league, of course, is being structured. What about the states of sporting facilities? All right. Do we have it? To the players, are the players exposed to modern day facilities to train and get themselves equipped? All right, so there are so many things involved at this point in time. So it's really, really disappointing. Rivers United are the only team, in the continent at the moment. I think we had about 4 teams. All have been ousted out. Only Rivers United managed to get to the group stage, of the competition. And so far, so good. It's been a poor one from there. Actually, of course, you and I talked about that group when we saw the draws, at the end of the day. We said, oh, this is actually a group of deaths where you played against Pyramid, RS Berkane. I think the only side maybe where that everyone that we thought, okay, yes, everyone talked about Dynamo. I think Dynamo's FC that at least Rivers United will be able to see how to maybe get past. They've not played yet, and we don't know what will happen, in that particular encounter. So, Mike, it's very, very disappointing. We thought Rivers United probably were going to have a fairy tale run. The group qualifying alone from that group stage, it would have been a massive one.
True.
Massive one, as it stands. So, but as it stands now, it's very, very difficult for them to skate through from that particular one.
Very difficult, I can tell you, for Rivers United to go, to skate through from that particular group, having lost 2 straight games in the 2 matches played so far in this group stage, after they fell to the firepower of the reigning champion away from home, 3 goals to nothing. Returning home, where there seems to, have a few fans. We thought maybe, they're going to pull the results, but then quite disappointing. In fact, the RS Bakene side, Kingsley, they actually controlled that game. You talk about ball possession, they had about 60-something%.
I think we talked about it. Was it the under-20 side defeated Argentina? They beat big top European nations. The senior team as well. So you take a look. Morocco, they've developed football. They are really ahead of Nigeria when it even comes to domestic football. And the MPFA is nowhere close. In the MPFA, very end. So it is very disappointing. That should tell you the gap at this point in time when it has to do with domestic football. We're nowhere close to most of these North African countries. And if we continue like this, it's really going to be a huge setback for the league.
Huge setback for the league. I can tell you there is a massive gulf in quality between the Moroccan league and the Nigerian league, and it tells from the result of the club-side football right here. And don't forget, Morocco has been on the surge in terms of sports and football development in particular, so they've been making giant strides, and this should be a wake-up call for Nigerian Premier Football League. We keep talking about this over time, but then the needful must be done if we truly want to catch up with the North Africans. But then let's dive straight to the main focus of this weekend edition of this show, which is the UEFA Champions League midweek games that lit up our television screen. I can tell you that Chelsea Football Club pulled off one of the results in the UEFA Champions League night on Thursday after they trashed Barcelona 3 goals to nothing at the Stamford Bridge. Enzo Maresca's men also saw Enzo Fernandez's goal ruled out before Jules Conde's own goal gave them the lead. Barcelona were reduced to 10 men before half-time as the referee showed Ronald Araujo a yellow card. Chelsea took advantage of their extra man to score twice after the break through Estevao Williams and, of course, Liam Delap, the English striker. It was a fantastic display at the Stamford Bridge on Tuesday night, Kingsley, for Chelsea Football Club. Did you see that result coming?
No, I never saw that coming. I thought it was going to be a KG encounter. All right, I never knew Chelsea were going to beat Barcelona 3 goals to nil. Barcelona were unable to score even a goal. Barcelona that a high scoring side. They have good attackers. Lewandowski, Lamine Yamal, Rafinha couldn't score a goal against Chelsea. That was a very disappointing. I didn't see that score line, coming. But it was a very beautiful game, especially for Chelsea Football Club. No one. For me, I think a lot of lesson for Barca to learn, in that encounter. I think if you take a look at it, Mike, it has not been rosy for them in the UEFA Champions League. We saw what PSG did to them, and now they are also being trashed once again by Chelsea Football Club. So I think as in Flick, we really have to look at a way to twerk things to make sure that the team, of course, is really in good shape if they really want to compete for the UEFA Champions League or the Spanish La Liga. Because if you take a look at it, Arsenal are flying very high. The likes of Bayern Munich are also flying very high as well. So if you want to compete with these teams, you have to be at your best. Barcelona is a very good team. They have talented players, but they just have to boost that confidence level once again and be able to have that fear factor that whichever team that comes to play them know that this is FC Barcelona. So they really have to instill that, once again. They are a very good side, but what they need now is that winning mentality to be consistent in winning games, and I think that, of course, will help them, to achieve something this season. But for Chelsea, we'll just see if they can continue with this, performance.
We'll see if Chelsea Football Club can continue with this impressive display we saw against Barca at Stamford Bridge on Tuesday night, where they had to breeze past the Catalan giants 3 goals to nothing, and coupled with a very fantastic display from the young Brazilian winger, talking about Estevão William, who has been touted as a new big thing in the world of football. Away from that, Manchester City fell to the firepower of their opponents in a successive defeat and first UEFA Champions League group face a home loss in 7 years as Bayern Leverkusen claimed a 2-0 victory at the Etihad Stadium. Lyon were the last team to beat Manchester City at home before the knockout round in September 2018, winning 2-1. Pep Guardiola served a touchline ban that very evening and was replaced in the dugout by Mikel Arteta. But Guardiola had a front row seat for Tuesday's clash. He made 10 changes to his starting 11 from the weekend defeat to Newcastle United, benching the likes of Erling Braut Haaland, Phil Foden and Jeremy Doku. But the fresh legs did not work, with Pep Guardiola urging his side to pass the ball quicker from the early minutes of the game as Leverkusen outplayed the citizens. at their home ground. So another defeat to Manchester City. After that English Premier League defeat they suffered in the hands of Newcastle. Playing at home, people thought maybe, this could be another opportunity for them to at least reclaim back a victory, but then they fell surprisingly to Bayern Leverkusen at home. This Manchester City side of this season, they are blowing hot and cold. When you think they seems to be getting back their mojo, the next game you just see them dropping. Have Pep Guardiola not really been able to, strike a balance in that team so far this season?
I would say he has not really tried to strike a balance. I think he has, but the team just need to be consistent. Like the game against Leverkusen, Pep was I think he was overconfident that his team, that Manchester City were going to get the win. Why did I say he was overconfident? Because he was benching his key players. Doku, you bench Erling Haaland, and this is a Champions League game. Benching your key players. That's to tell you that, you think you can do with the ones you have. This is not by Leverkusen. We'll beat them. Yeah, I think he was too overconfident, and that was why, he lost that one. And when it got worse, of course, in that encounter, I was saw him bringing in Jeremy Doku, Haaland, and the rest of them. But it was too late. Leverkusen, after getting those goals, they have to lock up shop, try Moses can at least, to maintain the game to the very end. So for me, I think in that encounter, Pep was too, he was overconfident. That was why, Manchester City lost that game. Because if players like Jeremy Doku, Phil Foden, Haaland might have started that encounter, I think that result wouldn't have been what it was, at the end of the day. So for me, I think Manchester City, if you take a look at it, they're like a resuscitating side. They are still trying to find back their mojo from what we're saying. Yes, they've gotten some couple of impressive results before that game against Newcastle and Leverkusen. But if you take a look at it overall, City are still trying to find back that winning mentality, once again, to be able to stand their ground as one of the very best, in the Premier League this time around. So I just hope that, going forward, Pep Guardiola, of course, will be able to put the team, in a very good shape, and the players as well, living up to expectation. If you look at it, I think teams now do not really have that fear factor for Manchester City anymore. So whichever team they come across, you see the opponent try to fight to the very end. All right. So for me, I think they have to come up with that style of play we saw 3-4 seasons ago, where before 20 minutes in a game, City's ahead by 1 or 2 goals. That's the kind of mentality, of course, City, of course, need at this point in time. So for me, I think we'll just watch out and see how far the season, of course, will go down for them. A little bit close, to Arsenal, who are top of the table, and also trying to be in a very comfortable position in the Champions League. But if you take a look at Manchester City of this season, I don't really think they have that, mentality of maybe fighting for the title. Even in the Premier League and the Champions League, I don't really see that, coming this season for City.
A lot of skepticism from the angle of Kingsley regarding the performance of Manchester City this season. He's not yet convinced about the way and manner Pep Guardiola and his team are going so far this season. But then, let me serve you the full results of the Tuesday's night UEFA Champions League in full, as Ajax lost at home to Benfica 2-0. Galatasaray were also beaten at home by Union Saint-Gilloise 1-0. Bodo Glimt, yes, also lost at home to Juventus 3-2. Dortmund beat Villarreal 4-0, while Chelsea, we told you, beat Barca 3-0 at the Stamford Bridge. Citizen, that is Manchester City, yes, were beaten by Bayern Leverkusen in that very encounter. Newcastle United, yes, they were also in action and they were beaten by Olympique Marseille 2-1. Napoli got the better of Karabakh 2-0. Slava Prague were held at home by Atletico Club 0-6 ended. These are the few results of the UEFA Champions League games that came through over the midweek on Tuesday. At this point, we are going to take a quick break. When we are back in the second half, we'll continue to serve you more of the UEFA Champions League stories, because Arsenal did something fantastic, plus other big teams that failed at home. Liverpool, what is wrong with Ancelotti? When we are back, we'll serve you details of this and many more, and how the UEFA Champions League standing, is shaped up, and then the first 8 teams that possibly might just go through will also do well to, look at the basement team, those that might just be the first to exit the UEFA Champions League, the new edition of it. And we are back with all of this. We'll serve you many more stories. Happenings in the world of sport, and a major focus on this weekend edition of the show is the midweek UEFA Champions League, where some teams are doing quite well, while others are also licking their wounds as we speak, courtesy of their defeats over the midweek. But then some fans that are so happy and elated because of the prowess and the consistency of their team is Arsenal, as Arsenal thumped the Bayern Munich 3-1 in a clash of the English and German league leaders on Wednesday night to maintain their perfect record in the UEFA Champions League this season. The Gunners dominated the second half after 17-year-old Leonard Karl pulled the Bundesliga team level, with Noni Madueke restoring Arsenal's lead and fellow substitute Gabriel Martinelli taking advantage of a huge blunder from goalkeeper Manuel Neuer. Both clubs last 16. Kingsley was an exceptional, fantastic display from Arsenal Football Club. Taking a look at the way Bayern Munich always deal with Arsenal. The expectation was high from both teams. Why? Because Bayern, they are also doing pretty well. They have not lost a game so far, both in Europe and in their domestic league, building up to that game. Arsenal also had a perfect record in the UEFA Champions League, then also topping the English Premier League. So how do you assess that game that night and the performance of Arsenal?
I think that, like I told you the other day, that game was won tactically. All right, the game was won tactically. Mikel Arteta actually brought in, of course, his A game, in that encounter. Looking at the fact that some of his players, were somehow tired or were not giving their best. He has to take out the likes of I think Trossard, Bukayo Saka, bringing in some of the guys like Noni Madueke, of course, into that encounter. I talk about the likes of Martinelli, and it really paid off, for Mikel Arteta. That's if you take a look at it, he won that game, tactically. So for me, I think it was a very good one, and much thanks, to the squad depth of Arsenal Football Club, because Arsenal, they now have, quality players, that can, of course, put up a very good performance no matter any time, any day. And I think for me, if you take a look at the structure, the team, talking about Arsenal now, they are very, very, very formidable. It will be difficult, of course, for you to take them down with the way they are, looking at the fact that, yes, they have top quality first 11, and even those coming from the bench are even good enough, of course, to replace those, starting the game. So I think for me, the squad depth and the tactical masterclass of Mikel Arteta really, really helped them, to get past, Bayern Munich in that particular encounter.
Great victory for the Gunners as the humbled Bayern Munich, the Bavarian, at the Emirates Stadium with a fantastic display from the Gunners. And Kingsley talked about the squad depth. I can tell you that for sure that this season, Arsenal, they are looking likely like a team to be taken serious because they've played 5 UEFA Champions League games so far this season, 5 victories, 15 points, 13 goals. Just one conceded so far, looking very formidable, just like Kingsley said. But then, can they do this till the end of the season? Is one big question that so many have asked, because a point will come where there will be deflection. Will Arsenal hold on? This is the big question from the lips of so many football pundits, taking a look at how in the past Arsenal flattered to deceive, but then we hope that this year, yes, they've grown beyond that, shaky ending of every season where they've failed to lift major trophies in the last 5 years. We hope that this year could be the year for the Gunners. Meanwhile, still talking some key highlights of the UEFA Champions League, as we can tell you that Kylian Mbappe scored all 4 goals as Real Madrid hung on to beat Olympiacos 4-3 in the UEFA Champions League night on Wednesday and end a 3-match winless run in all competition. The forward completed the second fastest UEFA Champions League hat-trick ever as he ran clear and stared beyond Zoulakis again. His 3 goals are coming in within the space of 6 minutes and 42 seconds. Only Liverpool's Mo Salah against Rangers in 2022 has scored a quicker hat-trick in the competition's history. The 4 goals took Kylian Mbappe to 9 goals in the UEFA Champions League this season, sending him 3 clear of Victor James Osimhen at the top of the scoring charts. So, impressive display from that one man, Kylian Mbappe. He made the difference, creating record for himself, the second player to score the fastest hat-trick in the history of the UEFA Champions League. Madrid, without Mbappe this season, Can they still continue to fire in the UEFA Champions League?
I think it will be difficult without Kylian Mbappe, all right, because if you take a look at it, I think they are now playing to the gallery of Mbappe. I think they are now making him an integral, member of the team. So it will be difficult for Real Madrid to play without Mbappe, especially at this stage where they are still trying to, take the team, of course, to that top level where they used to be. If you take a look at it, Madrid are not in that top level anymore. They are not in that top level where during the time where we have the likes of maybe Zidane and Ancelotti. I don't think Madrid are in that phase where they can compete strongly, for the UEFA Champions League. So they really need everybody, Mbappe, Vinicius Junior, another player to be, very fit, for them to be able to achieve something. So for me, I think playing with that Mbappe will be a disastrous one, for Real Madrid. I'm not saying maybe they cannot single-handedly win a game with that Mbappe, but it will be difficult. When you take a look at what Mbappe brings to the table, you want to, say that maybe the team possibly could struggle without him, because he's always there to provide the goals. And take a look at what happened on that very day. 4 goals, scoring, one of the fastest hat-trick, of course, you see in the world of football. That to tell you that the man still has it in him, and is now like the key man now, of course, in the team. So for me, Real Madrid with that Mbappe this season, I think it will be a disastrous one. But let's just see what comes up for them. They've not really been that spectacular, like I mentioned. This Real Madrid the Real Madrid of today is not what we used to know. They are that team, of course, that you always have that fear factor in playing. But why haven't we really seen it under Xabi Alonso? But I think probably they are getting there gradually with what we're seeing at this point in time. Maybe they can rekindle back that fire and be, of course, you get to that height where we used to see them.
Great display from Kylian Mbappe for Real Madrid on Wednesday, as he scored all 4 goals against Olympiacos to help the Los Blancos took all 3 points. And the big question remains, if Kylian Mbappe get injured today for Real Madrid, can they still continue to churn out a result and score goals? Because the man has been scoring goals since his day 1 arrival at the Santiago Bernabeu Stadium. Away from that, Liverpool crumbled to yet another shocking defeat as they were sensationally beaten 4-1 by PSV Eindhoven at Anfield. A trio of second half goals, 2 of them scored by Kohab Driouch, a left-hand slot, with a big question on whether is he the right man to catapult Liverpool to where they ought to be. Coming off the back of a consecutive 3-0 defeat, the result will amplify the noise surrounding Ancelotti and his future at Liverpool. Meanwhile, they are in the bottom half of the English Premier League, talking about Liverpool, and now have to work hard in order for them to get European passage come next season. Another shaky moment for Liverpool. Not too many saw this one coming at Anfield, where seems to be a fortress for them against PSV and the Oven side, beating and humbling Liverpool 4-1 at home. Can Liverpool, be that team that we will say they are in for the UEFA Champions League fight this season, or you think they are not among the elites to jostle for the trophy this season?
I don't think they are a side that we can say are in for the UEFA Champions League. I don't see Liverpool fighting for the UEFA Champions League title. I'm not seeing them to be a title contender, in the UEFA Champions League, because of their struggle. Beating at Anfield, by PSV is in such a margin. It's really a disappointing one, all right? So for me, talking about contending for the Champions League this season, I don't really see that coming, of course, for Liverpool, because it seems as if, they've lost their mojo at all. They lost that confidence. They've lost that winning mentality, of course, we saw last season. So talking about Liverpool contending for the Champions League. I think that is even very far. We should be even maybe talking about the Premier League. Even the Premier League, I don't think they're anywhere close at this point in time. So it's really going to be a difficult season if and Slot, of course, do not try to see how to bring back that winning mentality, in the team. Take a look at the players. Virgil van Dijk in defense not giving his best. Mo Salah, I don't know if it's old age, but even Mo Salah last season we saw what he did. But this season, not looking very much, formidable. The new players they brought in, Isak has been a shadow of himself. About over 10 games played, no impact, from Isak. A lot of missed chances, as he stand there. So if you take a look at it, the players are not motivated. I don't know, maybe you use that word, but I don't really think they are motivated to play. That synergy, all right, that fear factor, in playing Liverpool has gone at this point in time. So I just hope that, they try most of the kind to see how to find back their mojo and possibly see how to save the season. But talking about contending for the Premier League or even for the Champions League, I think that is very, very far away from Liverpool this season.
Contending for the Champions League is far away from the reach of Liverpool this season. Taking a look at the blip in form for them so far, that I've seen them lost 9 games out of a straight 12, winning just 3 out of 12 straight games. Not a good one for Ancelotti, and a lot of pressure is beginning to pile up against Ancelotti, as so many of their fans demand a quick, result to ensure that at least the Reds are back to their winning ways. All right, and improved Tottenham Hotspur were unable to hold on as they surrendered a 2-goal lead against European champions Paris Saint-Germain and fell to a 5-3 defeat in the UEFA Champions League with a header that alone surpassed Spurs XG at the Emirates. Richarlison scored his third in as many games to give Thomas Frank's side the initiative, while Rondol Kolomwani netted against his parent club as the visitors held on to 2 occasions at the Parc des Princes. However, a hat-trick from Vitinha inspired Luis Enrique's side to turn on the style and inflict more misery and pains upon Spurs, who fell further away from a place in the top 8 of the UEFA Champions League fees. Precious was on Thomas Frank to produce a similar performance to the one that saw them came close agonizingly to winning the UEFA Super Cup against the Parisians in August, especially off the back of their atrocious display in the London derby, where they recorded a season low as they were hammered by Arsenal 4-1. So Tottenham Hotspur, we saw them in the UEFA Super Cup against this same Paris Saint-Germain side. They did fantastic, and if not for one thing, they would have won that UEFA Super Cup. Yesterday, or rather on Wednesday, was yet another opportunity for them to, pay back Paris Saint-Germain in their own coin, but then they failed to do so. Is Thomas Frank the man to paddle the boats of Tottenham Hotspur to safe landing?
He is the man, but you have to give him time. All right. We take a look at what Thomas Frank was able to do at Brentford. Also coming down to Tottenham Hotspur, I think you have to give him time to, of course, take Tottenham Hotspur back to that, top level, football once again. I knew against PSG, it was going to be difficult for them, no matter how good, of course, they were. I knew it was going to be difficult for, Tottenham Hotspur. So, like I said, I think Thomas Frank, of course, need time to be able to take this Tottenham Hotspur side, to that level where they compete, of course, very, very strongly.
All right, Thomas Frank is the man to, of course, take the boats of Tottenham Hotspur to a safe landing without hitting the iceberg. But then, let's serve you the full standings in the UEFA Champions League. In first position, Arsenal is there with 15 points plus 13 goals. Paris Saint-Germain sit second with 12 points plus 11 goals. Bayern Munich occupy third position with 12 points plus 9 goals. Inter Milan sit fourth with 12 goals plus 9, with 12 points rather, plus 9 goals. Real Madrid sit fifth with 12 points plus 7 goals. Borussia Dortmund are in sixth position with 10 points plus 6 goals. Chelsea are in seventh position with 10 points plus 6 goals. Sporting are seated 8th with 10 points plus 6 goals, while Manchester City occupy 9th position with 10 points plus 5 goals. Atalanta are 10th with 10 points plus 1 goal. And that is the standing. Let's take a look at the bottom teams, because Bodo Glimt are there in the 32nd position with just 2 points minus 8 goals rather. Yes, 2 points minus 8 goals. While in the 33rd position is Olympiacos of Greece. They have 2 points minus 8 goals. Villarreal of Spain, they are in 34th position with 1 point minus 8 goals. And in 35th position is Karat Almaty with just 1 point minus 10 goals. And Ajax are there, the basement team, or table rather, with just 0 points. Yes, 0 points minus 15 goals for Ajax. Kingsley, can Ajax survive?
No.
All right, Kingsley just had to cut it short. Ajax, he did not see them surviving. But then let me take you through some of the key notes. For the automatic qualification to the next phase, from first position to 8th position, you get automatic qualification for the round of 16. And for qualification playoff, the teams within 9th and 24th will go for playoff. Then for team that will be eliminated is from 25th to 36th position. They will now bid farewell to the UEFA Champions League this season. So this is the standing in the UEFA Champions League table so far. So Arsenal sit atop, Paris Saint-Germain, Bayern Munich, Chelsea, and among other teams are also within the range of qualifying for the round of 16. But then, before we leave this evening, let's tell you that our sport extraordinaire for the week is no other person than Kylian Mbappe. Why? Because he became the second player behind Mo Salah to score the fastest hat-trick in the UEFA Champions League history. As he scored within 6 minutes and 42 seconds against Olympiacos on Wednesday night to create history for himself in the UEFA Champions League. Kingsley, deserving of Kylian Mbappe?
Very, very deserving. Scoring 4 goals, scoring one of the fastest hat-trick in the history of football. I think for me, very, very deserving. Of
topping
course,
the goal charts.
Topping the goal charts. Right. Osimhen, of course, was the one who topped the goal chart. I think that was in March day 4. And that's why, of course, you have to stay safe. But Mbappe now is back, and I think more work for Osimhen to do. But for me, I think very deserving for Kylian Mbappe.
Deserving for Kylian Mbappe. It's been an exciting moment this weekend doing this with you. Next weekend, we'll make a return for yet another rich and a bumper package of sports extra. I did a show this evening alongside Kingsley Emmanuel. My name is Emmanuel Michael, the Prime Minister of the Airways, and we are saying have a nice weekend ahead.